How's it going, loners? Thank you all for tuning into another video. We appreciate y'all coming back and watching again. We hope you guys have been enjoying all our content, especially on our vlog channel too. If you do enjoy our vibe, please jump over to our vlog channel and subscribe. This episode 314. Alright, so today we're going to do how American police compare to the police in Europe. This was posted a few months ago, so let's see.
We've all seen the headlines, the viral videos, the heated debates. American police, a force of good or a force of fear? As we delve deeper into the world of law enforcement, we'll uncover surprising differences between the US and Europe that might just change your perspective. Militarization, a unique American phenomenon. One of the most striking differences between American and European police forces is the level of militarization. In the US, many police departments, even in smaller towns, have access to military-grade equipment like armored vehicles, assault rifles, and drones, largely due to federal grants and a post-9/11 security mindset. This militarization...
I feel like they used... Like, look, 9/11 was horrible. I'm not saying it wasn't. But, like, I feel like they used that to almost kind of... employ another agenda from it of like racially profiling a lot of people, utilizing heavier weaponry with things like I feel like they really took advantage of that.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
Has sparked concerns about excessive force and damaged relations between police and communities, particularly in marginalized areas. In contrast, European police forces generally adopt a more restrained approach. While some countries like France or Spain have specialized counterterrorism units, most European officers are equipped with less aggressive tools and focus on de-escalation, community policing.
Look, they do, but I've been seeing videos online of like, say like a Palestinian protest or other things in parts of Europe, and those cops are beating the shit out of some of the people.
Yeah,
Just saying.
Look, monkey see, monkey do, right?
And non-lethal tactics. Training duration, a marathon versus a sprint.
Yeah, I've heard that.
One of the most striking differences between US and European police forces is the length and depth of police training. In the United States, becoming a police officer often involves anywhere between 18 to 30 weeks of training at a police academy. This training is largely focused on physical fitness, firearms proficiency, and basic law enforcement tactics. While it's intense, it pales in comparison to the training that officers in many European countries undergo. In Europe, police officers typically train for much longer periods, often between 2 and 3 years before they're fully ready to hit the streets.
Wow.
For example, in Germany, police recruits undergo approximately 3 years of rigorous training, which includes everything from law to psychology and conflict de-escalation.
Yeah.
That would be a big one here.
Yeah.
Techniques. Similarly, in the UK, police officers typically complete a 2-year probationary period, which includes comprehensive classroom instruction, on-the-job training, and ongoing assessments. This longer, more intensive training in Europe ensures that officers are better equipped to handle the complex nature of law enforcement, especially when it comes to understanding legal frameworks, dealing with mental health issues, and managing high-stress situations without the immediate use of force. Police accountability, transparency, and oversight. Police accountability is a hot topic in both the US and Europe, but the systems for ensuring it are quite different. In the US, there are often calls for police reform and greater oversight, especially following
it's a big issue too because the police force is very corrupt, and a lot of times the law will side with the police even if they were in the wrong, and they acquit them of so many things that they shouldn't be acquitted of.
It's just easier to for a cop out here to get away with certain behavior.
Yeah. It might be like that in parts of Europe too, I'm sure. But yeah.
Yeah, because you definitely need way more evidence, and they do have way more protections.
They do have a lot of protections.
And Trump's trying to increase those protections.
Yeah.
And make them almost immune to anything at this point. But, I mean, everything's up in the air about that.
Yeah.
Controversial incidents of police misconduct. While there are mechanisms for accountability, such as body cameras, civilian oversight boards,
He's trying to get rid
and
of those.
internal investigations. The process is often seen as opaque and lacking in consistent results. In Europe, however, many countries have more robust oversight systems in place, particularly when it comes to police conduct. For example, in the UK, the Independent Office for Police Conduct, IOPC, is an independent body that investigates complaints against the police and ensures transparency in the system. In Norway, public trust in law enforcement is bolstered by independent review processes that allow citizens to file complaints and hold officers accountable for misconduct.
Wow, shocker.
Moreover, in countries like Sweden and the Netherlands, police misconduct is treated with the utmost seriousness, and officers found guilty of abuse or corruption are often swiftly held accountable through internal or external investigations, ensuring greater public trust in the police force. The role of technology, surveillance versus privacy. In recent years, both U.S. and European police forces have begun utilizing advanced technology to aid in law enforcement. However, there's a stark difference in how technology is used and regulated. In the U.S., surveillance tools such as facial recognition technology, drones, and predictive policing algorithms are being employed by law enforcement agencies, sometimes with little regulation or oversight. This has raised concerns about privacy rights, particularly in light of incidents where these technologies have been used disproportionately against minority communities. On the other hand, in Europe, the use of surveillance technology...
I think that's when people argue that there's systemic racism in our country a lot, which there is in a lot of European countries as well.
Around the world, yeah.
Yes, but these are the types of examples that people are talking about. They're not just talking about like, arbitrary examples that people like to be like, well, there's the most black billionaires that there's ever been in this time. That's not the what
Right.
they're talking about. They're talking about how the system
Traits
affects them
minorities.
disproportionately.
Yeah,
That's
and
what they're trying to say.
sometimes it's not even conscious. A lot of it is subconscious too. And I'm not trying to excuse bigots, okay? But even people who consider themselves pretty progressive, we all have internal racism. We all have internal misogyny. Like, we all have things that we're just subconsciously...
Affected by.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's true.
And it's... Yeah. It sucks because it relays you're in a job that is very important. A job that I can have and... by this time next year, I could be a police officer if I wanted to.
I did hear that it is hard to get into it, though. Like, it's hard to get accepted.
Clearly not.
I don't know.
I don't think it's hard to get accepted. I think that by their standards, they think it's hard.
I just knew
really
one
don't-
guy who kept trying to become one, and they
Is
kept
he an
denying
idiot?
him. All right.
I'm just
Is
being
subject
serious.
to
Is he
strict-
like dumb?
A little bit,
Okay,
yes.
well, there you go.
data protection laws, such as the General Data Protection Regulation, GDPR. European countries are much more cautious about the collection and use of personal data, and any surveillance activities are heavily scrutinized for their legality and necessity. The European Union has set high standards for police use of technology, often prioritizing individual privacy and freedoms over the unchecked expansion of surveillance tools. Policing and mental health. A major difference in approach. Policing in the U.S. often places a heavy burden on officers to handle a wide range of situations, including mental health crises. Unfortunately, the lack of proper training or resources can result in tragic outcomes, with police responding to mental health-related incidents with force instead.
Also, because a lot of these police officers, they're not psychologists. They can't understand the difference between somebody who that actually has like a cry for help and someone who's an actual threat. And I feel like we've been screaming this for years in this country to have a completely separate department
For mental health.
Yeah. So whenever dispatch is hearing what's going on, decide which department is worth sending over there.
Yeah. That would make
versus-
the most sense, to be honest.
Yeah, and I feel like a lot of EMTs too, like, first off, severely underpaid. They deal with a lot of mental health, I was going to say patients, but
Issues.
people who have, these issues too. And then they're not equipped to deal with it either.
No.
Of care. In the U.S., over 1 in 5 fatal police shootings involve individuals with mental health issues.
That's
In Europe,
crazy.
however, mental health training is often integrated into police education from the outset, Countries like Finland and the Netherlands have implemented specialized training and units to deal with mental health emergencies in a way that emphasizes care and understanding rather than
That's good.
punitive measures. In Finland, for example, officers are trained to recognize signs of mental distress and are equipped to handle situations calmly and effectively, often working in tandem with healthcare professionals to avoid violent escalation. Moreover, several European countries have separate mental health response teams that operate alongside the police, ensuring that individuals experiencing a crisis receive the appropriate care rather than being incarcerated or subjected to force. Civilian oversight, a patchwork system in the U.S. Civilian oversight of police is a crucial check on power, but its implementation varies widely across the U.S. Some states have robust civilian review boards with investigative and disciplinary authority, while others rely on internal affairs units within police departments. This patchwork system can lead to inconsistencies in accountability. In Europe, civilian oversight is often more centralized and standardized. Independent police complaints commissions or inspectorates have the power to investigate misconduct, recommend disciplinary action, and even refer cases to prosecutors. Policing culture, community versus authority. Another key difference between U.S. and European police forces is their overall relationship with the public. In the U.S., policing often has an authoritarian undertone. The term us versus them is a common sentiment, where officers view themselves as protectors of the public, often positioning themselves above the citizens they serve. This mentality can sometimes lead to a more confrontational approach in
1000%.
Yeah, the public here, they don't trust the cops.
Yeah.
In most states.
It's because they've given so many examples not to.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Interactions with the public. In contrast, European policing tends to have a more community-oriented approach. The philosophy of policing by consent is central to many European nations, particularly in the UK. British police, for example, pride themselves on not carrying firearms and often emphasize their role as part of the community, not separate from it. The idea is to build trust with citizens through transparency, respect, and communication. This approach fosters a sense of collaboration, where police officers are seen as problem solvers rather than enforcers of law and order. The difference in police culture often extends to how police officers engage with protests, public gatherings, and civil disobedience. In the U.S., large-scale protests have sometimes led to violent clashes with law enforcement, with police using riot gear, tear gas, and rubber bullets to disperse crowds. On the other hand, European police forces are more likely to use dialogue, negotiation, and a gradual response to maintain order in similar situations. In countries like the Netherlands and Spain, for example, public protests are often managed by officers who engage in conversation with protest leaders to prevent violence before it escalates. Public perception and trust. Finally, the public perception of the police is shaped by the differences in their training, tactics, and oversight. In the U.S., trust in police is a complex and often contentious issue. Incidents of police violence, particularly against Black Americans, have eroded public confidence in
Well, yeah, if you look back at the 90s, the Rodney King riots other
That's
things
what I was
like
gonna
that,
say
like
too.
those were very tragic times in our history, and when this shit still happens.
Was that 90s or 80s?
The 90s.
Oh.
I believe it was 90s.
law enforcement, especially in communities of color. Movements like Black Lives Matter have highlighted the need for police reform, including changes to how officers are trained, how they interact with the public, and how accountability is handled. However, some communities in the U.S. still have a high level of trust in their local police, and efforts to improve police-community relations continue across the country. In Europe, public trust in police tends to be higher on average. While there are certainly instances of unrest or dissatisfaction with law enforcement, particularly in countries like France and Spain, where protests against police violence have occurred, the overall perception of police is generally more positive. This is largely due to the emphasis on community engagement. Lower level.
I don't know. I just feel like when you show up to protest with all this gear, like you're protecting something and making people who are protesting feel like an enemy to you, you're only going to ignite certain behavior.
Yes, but I mean, I do get to the extent where like you do have to protect yourself if there's bad characters.
1000%. But if you're showing up to this event
Yeah.
fully like with the shield,
It's already
and
negative,
you're
yeah.
basically setting a tone that we're
Don't-
waiting for you to get violent, you
Yeah.
know?
Yeah.
When a lot of these things, they don't escalate.
Yeah.
You're seeing the worst of the worst, okay?
Yeah.
And obviously, if you want to have people like that on standby, maybe out of sight, that's one thing.
That would be a
It's
good
not-
idea.
Yeah.
Yeah, that'd be a good idea.
But as far as showing up like that, I don't know. It
Yeah.
just sets a tone that is unnecessary.
And more robust accountability mechanisms. However, European police are not without their own challenges, particularly when it comes to issues like immigration, police brutality, and protests. While both American and European police forces aim to maintain public safety, their approaches to policing, use of force, community engagement, and accountability differ significantly. American police forces tend to be more heavily armed,
Yeah.
more focused on immediate law enforcement, and face greater challenges related to accountability. European police forces, on the other hand, often have longer training periods, emphasize community engagement and de-escalation, and generally have stronger oversight mechanisms. Understanding these differences is crucial not only for comparing policing strategies, but also for ongoing discussions about the future of law enforcement in both regions. Enjoyed the video? Give it a thumbs up, share with your friends, and don't forget to subscribe for more amazing content.
All right.
Hold on.
Yeah, I feel like whoever put that video together, I don't know if that probably wasn't the actual guy talking. I think he just used like a AI voice. But he put together a lot of good information.
Yeah, no, for sure. When was this?
It's
Oh, this
USA
was like
versus
5 months ago.
it's a very small channel,
Oh, that's
200
cool.
subscribers. So I'll put the original in the description.
It's
Let us know
probably
your
right.
opinions on this topic down below. How you feel the cops in Europe do, and wherever you're from. But yeah, let us know.
Hopefully you're from Europe if you comment on it, so that
Yeah,
you can
yeah.
have perspective.
So thank you guys for watching. Please like and subscribe, and jump over to our vlog channel. And we'll see you next time.
Bye.